What's in your brand? This is a critical question for small and medium business owners who are trying to develop their company and build their brand. And I just happen to be here today with John Brand, marketing expert and the CEO of Brand Design. John, a little bit about Brand Design.
Hi, Brand Design is a full-service advertising agency located in Warrenton, Virginia, and we serve Maryland, D.C., several other states around the country. We've been in business about 18 years now, and we started in 1994.
Great.
And we do every form of marketing that there is to offer pretty much.
Great. And we're here to talk about branding today. And I guess with a name like John Brand, you didn't have much of a career choice.
I was actually born into the business.
Born into the business.
And named that way too. Yeah.
Great. Well, John, I know that a brand is more than just a great logo, right? And so as you look at your clients, what are some things really that make up a great brand, and how do you create a great brand, and really what is your brand, and what goes into all that?
Well, branding is very important to a business. I mean, it's probably one of the most important things for a business. It helps to differentiate yourself from your competitors, which is really important. And it also helps you to be recognized by your customers and to help your customers be recognized. So when I develop something for a customer, and develop their brand, I'm looking to distinguish them so that they can sell more product.
Okay, great. So as you look at how to create a brand, just what are some things, what are some recommendations you give as people are trying to pick their name and they're trying to pick their brand? And then what's all the,
Branding,
I know it's, but what does that mean,
Branding, look at, you see my tie. I'm wearing this tie this morning. This has a certain pattern to it. And if you look at animals, I'll relate this to animals. If you look at animals like tigers or leopards, they all have their own specific spots or stripes.
Right.
Well, businesses have to have their own specific spots and stripes. It's the same exact thing. Basically, if you're a zebra, you have the stripes, you have the claws for doing claw-like things if you're trying to get game. You have large teeth. You have all these different attributes, and that's what branding is for business. Businesses have a variety of attributes, and all those play a part of their brand. That becomes part of their brand.
Right. Good. I like how you use that, especially that animal, and the animal has their stripes. But then it's also what that animal does, right?
That's correct.
So you have certain expectations from a leopard or from a giraffe. You know what they are, and you have certain expectations. And I think that's the same thing with business, where, when you see the McDonald's brand, you kind of have an expectation there.
Absolutely.
So, and I know you've kind of built this into your own brand with the animal. Do you mind if we show some of those?
Absolutely.
Some of those slides?
Sure. Yeah. You can see.
Alyssa, do you have the brand slides? Good.
Basically, you're going to see a variety of things. You're going to see a brochure. You're going to see some postcards, and you'll see here. This is my brand. I have this on my website. I have the brand on my website. I have the brand with my brochures, my postcards, my mailers, my advertising. It's all that same theme and the reason why I'm using this today, the reason why I came here and put the tie on is because this is what I'm about. This is what branding is, and so I thought this would be the easiest way to convey what branding is to the audience.
Great. Yeah, and I like the way that you use all the different, the different animals. So it's not just about, we saw the first picture that, I got to ask you, is that a real tiger? I mean, are you like posing with a tiger, or did Linda do some Photoshop?
It had been fed. No, it had been fed.
Okay.
And also, it's amazing what you can do with Photoshop and the tools that we have today on the computer. And of course, we took some photography, and then we brought the two together and to make it look very realistic. And I've been asked that by so many people. Yeah.
And I like how kind of even your background plays into that stripes and that animal theme, and knowing just by the look and the feel of that animal that's a
yeah, it's really helped distinguish my firm from other companies where, from what I can remember, we're the only ones really doing this sort of. People say, well, what's with the animals? Well, animals have all these different traits, and they have all these different looks and feels, and that's what branding is about. That's what we're about for business.
Good. So your brand is everything that has to do with your business, including the service you provide, and then how you communicate that as well. Alyssa, any questions from the audience?
Do you have any recommendations about using my last name in the company name and brand?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think a lot of people, hey, I open my own company and now I'm, Johnson Plumbing, or, consultants, CPAs especially. What do you recommend with people doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, when I started brand design, I wasn't necessarily thinking branding and brand design. I actually started because I was thinking of my name, John Brand.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, my name brand and branding became such a popular catchphrase term,
Right.
that now my name and they kind of work together. So yeah, I think if it's very important to use your name in your brand if you can, and it really also depends on the type of business that you're in. I mean, if you're a plumber, you might want to say something more towards plumbing. But if you're Johnson's Plumbing, you want to differentiate yourself from Ted's Plumbing, then that's a good way to do it. So yeah.
And how do you, when you look at kind of a business strategically, do you have any recommendations? Because if you start naming the business after yourself, then it may limit down the road what you can do, or
Absolutely.
if you can sell, those types of things, because those kind of play into those strategic decisions. What do you think about that?
If you're a small business and you're going to keep your business is primarily going to be localized. I don't think it's a bad idea to use your name. You want people to know who you are. You're
Right,
going to be
right,
all
right,
over
right.
the place, so that's very important. But you can reach out a little bit with your name regionally. If you look at Purdue and
Right.
the chickens, if you look at Ferguson Plumbing, they're regional. They're all along the East Coast, so you can reach that along, and that name can become part of it. I'm not sure if McDonald's was done that way or not. I'm not sure. I guess it may be.
Actually, I think they bought it.
Yeah.
I think the guy who did it actually bought it from the
Sure.
McDonald brothers or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
but
So
way
you can
before
see how
that.
that can translate into utilizing your name and using your name for branding.
Yeah, so it sounds like, when you're looking at and using your name, that, if you brand it right and you do the right things, that even your last name can be something that can go national or be bigger. And
That's
you look at
absolutely
some of the
correct.
bigger companies,
Mhm.
but there was a lot of branding behind that.
That's correct.
And one other question was, any just kind of techniques and tips about creating your brand, as far as, should I make it say what I do? Should I incorporate a tagline? What about the picture? How complicated should the logo be? And even just a little bit about logo design,
Absolutely.
How are people using logos these days, and what's changed?
Well, there's traditional companies and there's contemporary companies, and so a lot of times your logo and your image depends on whether you're traditional or contemporary. There's so many different forms of design out there. And so if you're trying to get across that sort of traditional feel, then you probably want to do a logo that's somewhat traditional in nature and
Right.
look and feel. Same with a slogan. If you're a contemporary company, then that's the kind of mode that you're in. Then of course you want something that's very contemporary and a contemporary slogan, something that appeals to people at the time. So
Right.
yeah, it is important to have, of course, a logo and a slogan. What's more important, actually, is to do the research and see what your competitors are doing, see what the industry is doing, see what the product's requirement is. So
Right.
research and focus groups and things like that when you're developing your brand. And the other important thing is how well do your employees understand your brand? Because branding is not just an outside thing. It starts on the
Exactly.
inside. It
Yeah.
starts with your employees and it starts with you. And so that translates to the outside. So it's
Right.
very important that the employees are all on board with that brand, because that's what's going to help the brand take off and be caught and captured by
Right.
your customers.
Yeah, and doing a lot with social media, and even as I took my brand and created shirts and doing those types of things. When you're thinking about, especially your logo design, make sure that when you share it on Facebook, it's going to look good. So there may be some kind of, everything's square in social media. It seems like
That's
everything's square. So people that have the big long logos, it's tough to kind of get it down and picture it.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, from an image standpoint, I mean, obviously you want an image that is going to stand out from your competitors, and it's also going to be very recognizable to your customers. So if you're in the horse industry and you do a picture of the horse, there's going to be 100 other companies that are in the horse industry doing pictures of a horse. But if your
Right.
horse has spots or stripes, that's a different type of horse. Now all of a
Okay.
sudden you stand out. So you have to figure out, when you're developing a brand and a logo and that type of thing, a slogan, to do it in a manner that will help you to stand out and separate yourself from your competitors and
Yeah.
distinguish yourself for your customers. That's really
yeah,
the
so
primary importance.
just like other marketing, creating your logo, creating your brand, certainly differentiation and reflection of what you do and the qualities that you hold is a very important thing.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Mhm.
I know, and most of us know that, great brands aren't built overnight, right? I can't just come up with a neat logo and hang my sign out on the door and expect it to be world known, right? I know it comes with a lot of building,
It does.
brand building. So what are some ways that you recommend as far as, once you have this great logo, once you have this great brand, how do you build that? How do you really grow it and really make it go from, here's something I know and my company knows, to this is a household name, or at least within a certain area?
You have to apply it to every form of marketing that you do. If you're, one of the most important parts is a business card. That's a key part of your package and your
Okay.
marketing, your brand. It's probably one of the most important parts, because wherever you go, you're going to hand this card out. Your brand has to be right on that card. The slogan has to be right on that card. So it's not just your address and your name, but it's really the image that you put on that card. And that goes along with your advertising. It goes along with your social media. It also reflects in your website, of course, and brochures. Everything you do you have to incorporate that brand and the theme behind that brand that helps resonate with your customers, to help it resonate more with your customers.
Yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is being consistent across all your materials, right? So I remember a couple years back, I think it was the E-Trade, the first year the E-Trade baby came out, right? And hilarious. I mean, great
Absolutely.
television commercials. I think it aired on the Super Bowl, was one of the
Right,
first things,
absolutely.
right? And I was probably, I don't know, a few months after that, or even a year after that, I went to the E-Trade site because I was doing a class on advertising and I wanted to bring up that and kind of show that. And I was surprised that E-Trade didn't really have a recognizable reference to the E-Trade baby. Now they may now, haven't been there in a little while, but it sounds like what you're saying is that consistency of your branding and your coloring and your logo across all your materials.
And it's funny because I have a client that just asked us to develop some video based on that E-Trade baby
Okay.
commercial. And so we had to go back and check the E-Trade baby commercial to see what it was all about, to make sure we understood it. And there were lots of them. So they have, since that first one, developed a series
Yeah.
of E-Trade baby commercials
Absolutely.
that are all done the same way and all carry and help distinguish that brand.
Yeah. And so as for small, medium business owners, of course, it's tough for us to buy into the Super Bowl commercial. We're still working on it. It's
Yeah.
in
Lot
my
of money. Lot of
2014
money.
budget. But how can a small and medium business owners, what kind of tools can they use to help them best build their brand? What are some of the things that they can do?
Well, there are a lot of tools that are very inexpensive. I mean, if you're looking at social media, you can do that yourself, and you can build that brand right on on your social media. Your website, relatively inexpensive. When you start getting up to direct mail and advertising, the price starts creeping up, and
Right.
it gets a little more expensive. So you have to pick and choose where the most important places are to place your brand. But certainly, email blasting, that's a great place to promote your brand, to get the name out.
Okay, great. Alyssa, any questions from our audience?
It seems like everything is going online. What's the future of print in branding my company?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. I mean, I've been doing branding in the traditional sense, printing, brochures, posters, trade show booths, all that for years. That's how my business started. And within the last 2 to 3 years, everything has moved to online. And so if you're going to put money and put marketing dollars into something, put it onto online. I'm doing it. My clients are doing it. They're demanding that I do it for them. So yeah, I think that's the trend. Printing's not going to go away. Printing's still going to be there. People are still going to need advertising. They're still going to need a newspaper to be out there in print, because let's face it, people still read
Right.
those publications.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely moving in that direction. That's a good place to put your money.
And so, you're doing a lot more online. We're kind of shifting that direction because that's kind of really how people are finding companies in most industries now. But there's still a lot of value to, the handout brochure, the touchy-feely thing in certain
Absolutely.
situations, the trade shows, certainly business cards, a huge printed thing that I don't see going away anytime
No.
soon. So I think there are a lot of still good printed. But I think the main thing then, what you're saying is, but when you do the online and you do the print, keep them consistent in all those
Absolutely,
things.
yeah, it has to be consistent across all media, whether it be advertising, a trade show booth. I mean, you're probably going to see some imagery here soon with some trade show booths that we did for a company called Catch the Wind. We developed their brochures, their trade show booths, and through that process, we had to make sure that everything looked the same. The particular trade show booth went to Marseille, France, and it was a
Okay.
20 by 20 foot booth, but it had to look like their marketing materials to help really push their brand.
Do you have the, what is it, Trade Wind?
Catch the Wind?
I'm sorry, Catch the Wind. Do you have the Catch the Wind slides, Alyssa?
That's just one form, but yeah, across all media, and it's still really important to advertise. Some people don't always go online. They do look through the newspapers. They do see your ads, and you to have a presence. If you're going to have a presence through traditional media, you have to have a presence that's consistent across all media.
Yeah, so I think you have the Catch the Wind booth up, and you can see that. And Alyssa, if you scroll back maybe and just kind of show what the brochure and some of the other marketing materials that they did with that.
One of the things that we looked at here, this particular company deals with wind turbines, so wind and wind energy was really important to them. So we wanted to try to capture, as part of their brand, the wind flowing through their marketing materials. And that was really difficult when it came down to doing their trade show booth, because how do you show wind flow? So what we ended up doing, we did a skywalk that actually had a curved feel to it, and that's how we got the wind in their trade show booth. So,
yeah, and I like that trade show booth design in 25. I mean, that's a pretty significant project.
Yeah, it was huge.
That you guys do.
That was a large project.
Yeah, so to pull that out, that's a great way to. So and you know, we see a lot of local trade shows. We were at one last week, in fact, here in Northern Virginia, and you know, people kind of come in and they put their tablecloth on, and you know, there's not a whole lot of other branding besides that.
Right.
I know my first trade show, I had my table, and I just had the plain white tablecloth, and you know, with business consulting, you don't have a lot of showy stuff.
Right.
Well, they put me next to a woman who is an interior decorator. So she has all these plants and great things, great colors, you know, and then you get to my booth and it's like all white. Well, luckily we set up the night before, and so when I saw that, and I was of course across from a guy named Doc Klaus, who always has a great booth.
That's true.
And actually won Best in Show that year. And so I had the night, I went and I got a nice colored tablecloth, and I kind of propped it up and did some other displays so that it wasn't a total. And I gave the interior decorator half my table as well, so that was all good. But yeah, so that branding and taking that to all your different things, I think, is something that.
It's a perfect example of why it's so important to do branding and to present who you are to your customers. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I know we've had a little bit of a conversation recently especially about protecting your brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are some of the things that you think about when you're thinking, okay, now I have this brand, or I've trademarked or copyrighted something? How do you, any ideas on making sure that you protect that so nobody else is using it, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Primarily, you want to register it, you want to trademark it. You can put text on all your literature and pieces that says, you know, trademark, this is our property of your company, that type of thing. You can definitely put that down, copyright it, put the C on there with your date, so that will help protect your product and your business.
Yeah, and the other thing with that, of course, is that you need to, you know, do some searches and keep an eye out, you know, to make sure that people aren't kind of using it and doing that. The bigger companies have staff that's kind of what they do, is they search and they do that and protect their brand. Because
you know, you can really go overboard with, you can, I mean, well, I don't think you can ever go overboard with it. In reality, the expense of trying to protect it can be outrageous. So you have to kind of do it within reason. I've had clients come to me and say, hey, I saw your materials in somebody else's booth and they were using them. And of course, you know, you have to call the customer and say, well, how did this come about? So you have to be right on top of it when you do find out about it. But nevertheless, I mean, there's certain things you can put into place that's not overly expensive, and obviously you need to consult with an attorney to make sure you do it properly.
Good. Well, great. You know, recently we rebranded our company to be Sigma Business Management, and you know, after doing that, I realized that it's not just a matter of just changing the name on the door and saying, hey, we're here, right? You spent a few years putting all this stuff into your brand and putting up your website and your Facebook page and stuff, and you got to go through and do that. So just a question about rebranding. You know, sometimes when you start a business, you don't have the full scope of what you're going to be doing, and so as things change and market opportunities open, you may change things that may not be reflective. What kind of things do you look at when a client approaches you and talks about rebranding, whether it's a small rebrand kind of adjustment or whether it's a major renaming and rebranding?
I'll tell you, rebranding a company is a very difficult decision, and for a couple main reasons. One, it's expensive. I mean, you've invested thousands of hours of time and thousands of dollars of money into an image, and building an image that your customers will kind of grasp hold of, and then all of a sudden you change that image. That's part one. Part two is once you change the image, will your customers still remember you? You don't want to lose customer base because you've now changed your image.
Right.
So you have to, if you're going to rebrand, you have to look at the pros and the cons and really decide whether it's something you want to do. Changes in your market, changes in your industry, changes in your product, all these are good reasons to rebrand. I mean, if you're promoting a product under one logo and one image and theme, and all of a sudden you're no longer promoting that product, you're promoting something else, which is totally different, then your logo, your theme no longer matches what you're now promoting. So you have to be able to do. Another reason why you might be rebranded is that, let's say you have an image and a logo, but you've not registered it, and somebody else has got the exact same one, and they have registered it. Now you're going to get sued by that company for using their logo. So that's a good time to
Yeah.
rebrand.
I guess
So
that way.
those are the kind of things that you do. Those are the kind of reasons that you use for rebranding. Some logos and slogans, they get old, they get dated, and
Right.
companies move on, their industries move on. So yeah, then it's a good time to look at rebranding your company. So rebranding is an important part of a process of the growth of a company. You start off here, and as you check and evaluate where your company exists and at specific points in time, that's when you decide, well, okay, now it's time to move on and do something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially when the change in scope. I remember I guess it was probably mid to late 90s when NTW kind of started up. And NTW is, I guess eventually it's NTB or National Tire and Battery or whatever
Right.
it is. But it started as, I think, NT or National Tire or something
Right.
like that. And then within a year, they started doing batteries as well. Well, now they kind of had to add the batteries, so I think
Right.
that's what became NTB. And then as they added more car repairs,
Then
do you
it
keep
becomes
adding
something else.
letters, or do you, so I think they ended
Exactly.
up branding as NTB, and, we manage cars, but the main thing there is consider that change in scope as you're doing it, but then there may be a time when, whether it's because just the brand's old and you want to kind of do some things to kind of update it and use that, because it's a great marketing tool, right? It's a great
Absolutely.
marketing message.
And
to go out
advertisers
and
do
campaign.
different things too. Advertisers go through these genres where they start doing similar things.
Right.
We're in that business. We see other advertisers doing it, so we start to follow along. And so there's a period of time when everybody's using the acronyms. You have the IBMs, you have the AT&Ts,
Yeah.
and they all have. Well, over time that changes. And AT&T, you take a look at theirs. Theirs was AT&T, and that was it. Now it's AT&T, and of course they've got the emblem.
Yes.
The world logo. So they wanted to look global, worldly. So they started changing their philosophy, which helped to change their brand. So,
Right. Right, yeah, that's a good point. And the rebranding decision can be a little bit tough. What do you think
Absolutely.
about branding, products within your company? I know, bigger, I mean, somebody like Procter & Gamble, I mean, each one of their product lines is a brand.
That's correct.
And I've seen some smaller companies try to do that, but, I don't know, mixed results, I guess. What do you recommend when people are looking at branding multiple things instead of rebranding, maybe just branding
I
a
think
product?
I think each product should be branded, and
Okay.
if you can brand it to closely relate to your corporate brand, that's wonderful if you can do that. It's sometimes very difficult to do because different products have different ways and shapes and forms and themes, and so it's really kind of hard to put that all together and make it just like the corporation, because that has
Right.
its own global thing. So, but I definitely think branding a product and giving it its own look and feel and image, that's something that's I think highly effective
Okay.
for promoting a product.
Good. Well, John, I know over the last few months you've kind of gotten into a new endeavor, I guess, and really it
Right.
goes along that online, an online
It
video, which we really like. And so, Alyssa, if you have the slides for the chamber video, if you could bring those up. I know you kind of spent some time branding on this.
We have.
And you want to tell us a little bit about chamber video and how it helps companies brand?
Sure. Chamber Video is an online video directory for businesses. We create a directory that's categorized so that a consumer can find a business online in a specific directory or shopping center, warehouse type atmosphere. And so you can see by some of the on your screen here that button with the triangle, the play button, and the motion sensing or the sound sensors out to the side. That's how we branded this particular product, and then we use it in our brochures, we use it online, we use it in our email blasts, the same exact look. And now we have several products. We have Chamber Video is one of the products, but we also have corporation video, and association video, and they all look very similar. They just have different colors to represent
Right.
those different products.
Great.
So,
And I also noticed in there a little bit of co-branding with
that's
one of the
correct.
local chambers.
yeah, this particular product works with membership organizations. So with Chamber Video, we can promote our product to numerous membership organizations and numerous chambers. So this particular one is with the Fauquier Chamber. We kind of use their brand and our brand together to promote that product.
That's great. And you seem to be noticing some co-branding type things more and more. Just off the top of my head, Taco Bell and Doritos, right? Both Pepsi company, right?
Yeah.
But they're doing the Doritos shell for their
Sure.
tacos, right? So a lot of that co-branding can be a
Absolutely.
pretty good way to take two different brands, but they're two very strong brands, and then bring them in and co-brand them
correct.
and get and leverage that effect. So good. Alyssa, any questions from the audience?
We are launching a new service. Should we brand it separately or rebrand to include it?
Covered that a little bit, but
I'm not quite sure I totally
well,
understand.
so for instance, just what I'm doing here, right? So we're kind of launching the new TV show.
Right.
Is that something that we should rebrand, or just brand that TV show, or is that something we should rebrand the whole company around so that it includes that service as well?
It's a product within your company. I would say brand it as your service, your product.
Okay.
First. If you can draw some parallels between that and your company image, then do that. If you can bring the two together somehow, show that there's a relationship between your product or your service and your company and what they do, then try to do that if you can. But always keep in mind that you want this product and service is going to be seen by people, the public, and you want to make sure that it stands out on its own too. So.
Right. Right. Well, that's good. That's good information as far as putting those brands together. And when you look at some of the bigger companies, even like General Motors, they have different lines of vehicles that they brand completely separately.
Absolutely.
So really the branding's not just I think we all kind of enter it as small business owners probably a little bit lightly, more so than we should.
Oh, it's extremely important to a business. I mean, well, of course, I'm in the business. So
Right.
But I've been doing this for 23 years now, and I've seen brands break a company. I've seen brands make a company. So it really depends how well you do this, and you want to do it to the best of your ability. Work with professionals, Jamie and other professionals in the business, and to really get your message out, and your theme out, and your look and feel out.
Good. And don't forget to back it up with great service, right? Because
That's right.
in the
Absolutely.
end, that's really what builds the brand.
Absolutely.
Well, great, John. Hey, I really thank you for being here. And I just got to ask you, besides brand design, what's your favorite brand?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I see so many. It's very difficult to that one stands out. But I guess I do like a lot of what the .com companies do. I just think they're very innovative. So you look at something like an E-Trade or Nike or something like that. I just love what they do. They're very inspirational, very emotional. Branding is about emotion and drawing and eliciting emotions
Right.
out of your clientele, and that's what sticks with them and to have them remember your brand. So emotions really play a key role into it.
Yeah, and you look at something like Google, right? I mean, just the fun way that they do Google,
Absolutely.
that they change it every time. I mean, that's part of their brand and changing
They do.
in what
It's
they do.
wonderful.
So it's great. So yeah, probably everybody has their favorite brand and their reason why, and there's some real popular ones. And your brand will also have value. It adds value to your company, and in that name recognition, if you go to sell later or anything, certainly that brand you'll find that it has value.
I'd also like to add, I love all my clients' brands. I love all-
Absolutely. I do too.
I wanted to get that in. Thanks,
That's a
clients.
good point.
Thanks, clients.
Well, John, hey, thanks so
You're
much
welcome.
for being here today. I appreciate all the great information, and you know that we're about helping people be better at business, and I think this will help them do that today.
Absolutely.
Certainly, if you found this information useful, feel free, please share it with your colleagues, share it with your friends, or share it with your clients if you're a business professional. And but most of all, take the information today and somehow take that back and use it so that you can be better at business today. Next week, we're going to be with Paul Goff. We're going to talk about healthcare. Paul is an insurance agent with the Puffenberger Agency here in Northern Virginia. And we're going to be talking through healthcare reform and some of the things, and really, in a non-political way, talk about healthcare reform and how it's going to affect business, or how it could affect your business and your bottom line. over the upcoming years. So thanks for joining us today, and be better at business.